We're back, and I know you're here to find out more about the snowman, but you're going to have to wait for a second. First, we'd like to start with a research study that we read recently by Robert Pianta from the University of Virginia's Curry School of Education. We link to it right here in our recommended reading page. Dr. Pianta wanted to test out interventions that could potentially shape a teacher's expectations for their students. He knew, based on decades of education research, that teachers who have high expectations for their students are more likely to have high student achievement. So the teachers in Group A got an intervention that was a fairly standard course on pedagogy, which included some direct instruction about the importance of having high expectations. The teachers in Group B, well, they got coaching on basic teacher behaviors and skills. So he videotaped their classes and they sat down with personal coaches to look at the implementation of certain basic classroom management and engagement strategies, and they got a lot of feedback on the implementation of those skills. So who do you think ended up with higher expectations for their students? Was it the teachers in Group A who got the direct instruction about high expectations, or the teachers in Group B who got coaching on basic teaching skills? The answer, and we love this, is the teachers in Group B, the teachers who got coaching. Pianta and his research team hypothesized that those teachers, once they started to implement skills that more effectively engage and manage students, actually started to get data that those students could learn, particularly students who were previously struggling in their class. Once they had actual proof that these students were capable of learning more, their expectations started to change. Their mindset about these students started to be affected. Whereas the teachers in Group A, the ones who were just told to have high expectations for their students, no effect on that PD. We think we can push the implications for this study even one step forward. Those teachers who received the coaching, well, not only was their mindset about their students influenced by that intervention, we also think that their mindset about their own ability to grow was impacted by this particular intervention. Once they saw that the coaching was helping them improve in the classroom, improve their abilities to work with those students, particularly the ones struggling most, we would hypothesize that they became even more hungry for feedback and even more open to growth. Which brings us back to the reason you're here right now, the snowman. Here he is. Remember Mr. Fixed? Well, the bottom of this snowman, Frosty's lower body, represents the amount of time it will take for Mr. Good Coach to develop a new skill in Mr. Fixed practice. We'll call it Skill A. You'll also recall that Mr. Fixed doesn't believe much in his ability to grow as a teacher, so it's going to take a lot of time for Mr. Good Coach to develop this skill. The process begins here, in the first feedback session between Mr. Good Coach and Mr. Fixed. And Mr. Fixed, of course, he has a fixed mindset, so he's probably exhibiting lots of those 4 horsemen behaviors in those early feedback sessions. That means that Mr. Good Coach has to slow down, show him those 4 horsemen videos, develop that common language to try to defeat some of those behaviors, and he realizes that's the only way that he's going to be able to get the ball or the snowball rolling with Mr. Fixed. So once we've successfully put a few of these horsemen back in the stable, Mr. Fix is able to get more out of his coaching session. He's able to start asking clarifying questions and getting more detail and actually processing the feedback, so he internalizes what to do next. Now when he walks out of the room, he has some picture of the types of changes that he needs to make. Then there's implementation. This is where Mr. Fix is practicing and executing the new skill in class. Now, we're right at the beginning of learning this new skill, so he's not going to hit a home run right away. It's not going to be perfect. He's going to fail a few times in his implementation of Mr. Good Coach's feedback. Now, because Mr. Fixed hasn't fully changed his mindset yet, those horsemen could rear their ugly heads yet again. And that'll cause Mr. Good Coach to revisit some of those earlier conversations, to have to work on those behaviors before he can keep Mr. Fixed moving forward. Now, we think with one more go-around of defeating those behaviors and digging into some more refined feedback from Mr. Good Coach, that Mr. Fix is ready to fully implement those strategies, and we can now say he has acquired Skill A. Having acquired Skill A, Mr. Fix will now see that he's moved one small but significant step toward achieving the vision of excellent instruction that Mr. Good Coach laid out for him. He knows this because students are now learning a little bit more in his classroom. This is a linchpin moment for Mr. Fix. He now has actual evidence that he's able to change and improve. Remember Pianta's study. It was the teachers who had data about their behaviors and the impact of their behaviors on their students who actually changed their mindset. This is a key revelation for Mr. Fix, and mostly because it allows us to flesh out our snowman a bit more. Frosty's torso here, we'll call that skill B. It's the second skill that Mr. Good Coach is going to focus on with Mr. Fix. You'll notice right away that the circumference is quite a bit shorter with skill B. That's because it takes significantly less time for Mr. Fix to acquire that skill. And here's why. It's important to note that skill B is built on the foundation of skill A, and this is not just about the structural integrity of our snowman. Arguably, the most important learning that happened for Mr. Fix was not the acquisition of a new teaching skill, but the development of a growth mindset during the process of learning skill A. If he's able to take that growth mindset and bring it to subsequent coaching sessions, when Mr. Good Coach starts to focus on skill B, he might be able to get to the point even faster where Mr. Fix can start to really process and implement the feedback. Now, this is still a new skill for Mr. Fix, so there's no way he's going to implement it perfectly the first time. He's still going to fail. But this time when he fails, the growth mindset that he developed previously is going to help him maintain his confidence and his optimism that he can ultimately succeed. Finally, having seen results before, Mr. Fix will remain confident that the acquisition of this new skill will have real payoff for his students. Now on to skill C. You'll notice that the skill acquisition loop is even tighter for all the reasons that we just described, which means Frosty has a head, and we have a beautiful visual hook for all of our beliefs about coaching and growth mindset. Before we close out, we just want to make one small point about the implications for not changing these fixed mindset behaviors or not fully pushing your teachers to acquire the skills that you're trying to drive in your feedback sessions. Remember skill A down there? Well, you don't want to spend a whole semester just kind of pushing that snowball uphill and not really getting to anything else. We want you to look back at your year of coaching your teachers and not see a bunch of snowballs laying in front of your yard, but see an army full of snowmen, just like Calvin sees. That's it for week 2. We've spent a lot of time on the fixed mindset tax. Next, it's on to clarity of instructional vision.